welcoming all of you to our mid-morning program of Bhakti Sangha Japa group. I thank you all for your wonderful association and beg forgiveness for interrupting your ecstatic chanting. It's time to move on to the next session of our mid-morning program, which is learning about the Caitanya Bhagavata. And may I know who all are there on the call today?
Hare Krishna, Anuradha Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Punita Gandharvika Devidasi from Texas. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Vinita Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharajas. Thank you so much for your association, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. All the assembled devotees, Guru Maharaj ki jai, Prabhupada ki jai. This is Shivani from Vaishnav, Virginia. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Shivani Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharajas. Thank you for your association, Mataji. Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Shri Guru and Shri Gauranga. This is Megha from Naperville. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Megha Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharajas. Thank you so much for your association, Mataji, this morning, and welcome you. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Hare
Krishna, Anuradha Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. This is Kamadiki Dasi from Baltimore. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Kamadiki Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharajas. Thank you so much for your association, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Anuradha Mataji. Please Shri Prabhupada, happy to see you. Thank you for welcoming everyone. I also welcome you to the conference call.
Thank you so much, Priti Vilasani Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharajas. Thank you for your lovely, lovely association. And welcome, Mataji. And thank you. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Dandavat Pranam. Glories to Srila Prabhupada, glories to Guru Maharajas and all the assembled Vaishnavas. This is Kirti Sundridasi. So nice to see you, especially your smiling face.
Hare Krishna. As soon as I hear the familiar voice, my smile goes wider, so forgive me for that. Hare Krishna, Kirtida Sundari Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharajas. Thank you for your association, Mataji. Thank you. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna, Mataji. Dandavat Pranam. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Shri Guru and Gauranga. All glories to the assembled devotees. Yashamati from Chicago.
Hare Krishna, Yashamati Mataji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Thank you for your association, Mataji. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Hare Krishna.
Shall we start, Mataji? Is Prabhu here?
Not yet. I don't see him.
Yeah, then in that case, we can go ahead with more introduction if there is anybody else who would like to introduce themselves.
Yeah, I see him.
He's here?
Yeah. What? Yeah. Mataji, can you make him?
I don't see Prabhu. Do you see Mataji?
Yeah, I see him.
Okay.
Hare Krishna. Just give me one minute. I'll turn on the video.
Yes. Can we start the recording?
Yeah.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much for your association, everyone. Today on Bhakti Sangha, we are very, very fortunate to have His Grace Ramgiridhari Prabhuji to enlighten us on Caitanya Bhagavata. And thank you so much, Prabhuji, for your wonderful association. Please take over the call, Prabhuji, and enlighten us. Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya. Jaya Nityananda. Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Jaya Jaya Shri Chaitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. So we are going to read from Caitanya Bhagavata, chapter 2, text number 64 onwards. So this is in the context where Vrindavan Das Thakura is describing about Mahaprabhu's appearance. So, as usual, we will read the shloka translation and then we'll get going into churning these shlokas. Text 64. Dharma karma loka sabe ei matra jane Mangala chandira jite kari jagarane. People's religion consisted of fruitive activities and they would stay awake through the night chanting prayers to Mangala Chandi, goddess Durga. Dambakari Vishakari Puje ko na janam Uttali karaya keho diya bahu dhanam. Some people proudly worship Vishahari, the goddess of snakes. The goddess of snakes, and others spend great wealth on idol worship. Dana nashta kare putra kanyara vibhaya yehi mata jagatera vyartha kalayaya. People squandered money on the marriages of their sons and daughters, and in this way they wasted their human lives. Eva Bhattacharya Chakravartis Mishra Sabha Taha Rao na jane Sabha Grantha Anubhava. Even the so-called scholars, the Batacharyas, Chakravartis and Mishras, did not know the real purport of the scriptures. Shastra padhaiya sabe ei karma kare Shrotara sahite yama pashe dhubi mare. And even after teaching the scriptures, the teachers still engaged in such activities. As a result, both the teachers and students were punished by Yamaraj. Navakhane yuga dharma krishnera kirtanam dosha vina gunakaro nakare katanam. They never explained the religious principle for the age, chanting the holy names of the Lord. They only found faults with others. They never glorified anyone. Eba sabha virakta tapasvi abhimani tan sabhara mukhega nahika haridhvani. All the so-called renunciates and ascetics never chanted the names of Hari. Ativada sukriti se snanera samaya Govinda pundarikaksha nama ucharaya. Only the most pious people would recite the names of Pundarikaksha and Govinda at the time of taking bath. Text 72. Gita Bhagavata ye jane te padaya bhaktira vyakyana nahi tahara jivaya. Even when someone explained the Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, they would not mention anything about devotional service to the Lord. Hare Krishna. Om Ajnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Namah Vishnu Padaya Krishna Preshtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swamin Niti Namine. Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvisesha Sunyavadi Paschatya Deshatarine. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrindam. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Hare Krishna. So it's always a pleasure, and the topic of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's transcendental appearance is very purifying, and coincidentally Mahaprabhu is going to appear in the next 2 weeks. We are going to have a Gaura Purnima celebrations. So the context, for those of you who must have missed few sessions, the context that we are in is about Mahaprabhu is going to appear, or Mahaprabhu's transcendental appearance is going to be described in detail by Vrindavan Das Thakur. And when Mahaprabhu appeared, several Parshadas or associates of Mahaprabhu also appeared to facilitate Mahaprabhu's Leela. So, and Vrindavan Das Thakur is now describing the verses that we read about the context or the society's frame of mind or the consciousness of people at that time. So, this all started much earlier when Advaitacharya witnessed, when he saw that what was coming was a self-realized soul. He could see ahead of time what is coming. So he already started to plead and pray to the Supreme Lord to come down, bestow his special mercy upon the people of Kali Yuga. So now these verses that describes about when Mahaprabhu appeared, even though by then Shankara has come and given his Mayavada philosophy, Ramanuja had come and has given his philosophy, Madhvacharya had already come and given his philosophy. There are several other Vaishnava Acharyas here and there practicing and implementing some bhakti processes. But by and large, the society was in completely misdirected state, as we read almost 6, 7, 8 verses. So the evil effects of Kali Yuga, the impact of Kali Yuga on all of us, technically at that point in time, is very nicely classified. How the Brahmanas behaved, how the educated behaved, how sentimentalist religious followers behaved, and how the teachers behaved. Several sections behavior are challenged and discussed by Vrindavan Das Thakur. So we will churn this context of 7, 8, 9 verses through some sets of reflection. My first reflection that I want to present here is about how generally actions are performed by people. Action is actually an effect. What causes them? What makes a person do a certain type of an action? And by this, we will also define or develop an understanding what should be the basis of our actions. And it will eventually establish Mahaprabhu's appearance and the transcendental nature of this entire Leela that the Lord is going to perform. So my first reflection is that a person's actions are based on 4 scenarios. Maybe more, but I would like to talk about only 4 scenarios. So based on 4 scenarios, a person's actions are decided. An individual decides, or generally a person, function. Because here, actions of people are questioned or challenged, and which is a right challenge. But to understand the root cause of it, we need to do a little bit of churning there. The first category is those who takes decisions, who performs actions based on sensual pleasure. Their decision sense or they decide simply based on what their senses say and how they feel about. So, I like this, I will do this. This is what is logically understanding to me, so I will do this. As we always know, that people who don't know the difference between facts versus truth will fall into this category. Because the current civilization is in the mindset that they will take decisions based on facts and figures. Unfortunately, that decision is short-sighted and that decision can actually be incorrect. Because all facts need not be true, and all true scenarios may not necessarily have enough facts to prove in general. So, an intelligent person, a person who is really, sane and in the mode of goodness, does not take decision only based on facts. But the first category of people, those who are sensually driven, logically driven by facts, they are the primitive and the lowest category in the learning stages. Animals do that. Animals just feel it and they react to it. So that's the first level of performing actions. Here we see you are a teacher, but you don't teach righteousness. You are a Brahmana, you don't function as a Brahmana. You are a dharmic, follower, but you are into sensual activities. So all these actions are eventually based on sensual perception. The second category of people who does take decision based on past experiences. I had a past experience. I will do my future action based on past experience. And this is one step better than sensual perception, but it need not be always correct. If I had happened to go to an ISKCON temple, maybe there had been some unpleasant experience there. So if I conclude that ISKCON temples will always give you unpleasant experience, hence I will not go to ISKCON temple, will be a wrong decision. But sometimes past experiences do have certain, positive effect also. Hence, past experiences based on that, if somebody takes a decision, it might not give them a perfect direction, perfect, journey for them. The third category is they will always function based on borrowed intelligence. This is one step higher than the previous 2 stages. In the borrowed intelligence category, they will not use their brain. They will use others' brain. He said, she said, they said, and several people said. And this borrowed intelligence is also some genuine people that because I don't know what is correct and wrong, I use that person's experience. This could be detrimental. sometimes it will be beneficial. If you borrow it from the right person, if you follow a right person, if you are subscribing to the right, person's ideologies, you're safe. But what if you are using the borrowed intelligence of a wrong person? Then that could be leading us to a wrong channel. And the fourth and the most important and recommended category is those who take decisions based on principles. So what is principally correct and what is to be followed, done, is what we need to understand. In the principled category, all the three scenarios that we spoke before, sensual, past experience, and borrowed intelligence, they all may contribute, but at the end of the day, decisions or actions are performed because it is principally correct, because it is absolute truth, because this is beneficial, even though it is not something that I like today, even though it means I'm coming out of a comfort zone. The reason this is being spoken about is when Mahaprabhu came, when Mahaprabhu appeared in this planet, he saw the first three category of people. Those who operate only based on sensual things, or just before Mahaprabhu appeared, or the scenario around the world. But for some pockets of people who have been trying to work towards bringing in righteousness, in general, Brahmanas started to misuse their power and position. Teachers started to misuse their power and position. Religious leaders started to misuse their power and position. So either they were sensually driven, or they were driven by some past experiences, or what they have learned from a wrong source, or they use by majority, popular vote, or by facts. So with all these scenarios, Mahaprabhu really realized that what is the evil effect of Kali. How can you go and teach somebody? How can we go and try to give some knowledge? How can we go and impart that science which is superlative? How can they will understand Bhagavad Gita? Because Krishna came as Chaitanya, and when Krishna gave that knowledge, he gave fantastic knowledge, superlative knowledge, which will be there for eternity, at least for the sustainable long period in time. But when he thought to himself, how will that knowledge be applied to people in Kali Yuga with this mindset? Prayena alpa ayusha sabhya kalavasmin yuge jana manda sumanda matayo manda bhagyahi upadritaha. With a person who have been in Kali Yuga and Kali Yuga mentality, which is short-lived, lazy, misguided, unfortunate, and disturbed. With this, how will they be able to understand? That's why Mahaprabhu thought, I will come and fix some fundamentals. So to fast forward, what did Mahaprabhu fix it? He didn't want us to learn Shastras. He didn't give anything complicated. He said, I'll give you one medicine. I will give you one aushadha. Because he knew that we are all sleeping souls. Jeev jago, jeev jago, Gaura Chandra bole, Kota nidra jao maya, Pishachi rakole. We are sleeping in the lap of which Maya? So what did he thought? I will bring in a medicine. Enechi aushadhi maya nasi bara lagi. So he gave one medicine. He brought that. He presented that. He prepared us to learn all the other future literatures or shastras that his students are going to present. So before even Rupa Goswami, Sanatana Goswami, and all the wonderful literatures were coming our way, Mahaprabhu gave the aushadha so that we are prepared even to receive them, to assimilate them. So my first reflection is that we should at least come to that stage of being a principled practitioner. What does a principled practitioner mean? What does that actually entails in our journey to Krishna consciousness? Prabhupada tells in the introduction or the preface to nectar of instruction. It is about our attitude and it is about our goal that we are desiring to set. So Prabhupada said two things. Our attitude of being a sincere, serious learner is to be established, and the goal is to become a Goswami. In one single paragraph, Prabhupada is telling two things: the process and the destination. The last paragraph of Preface to Nectar of Instruction, the last but one paragraph Preface to Nectar of Instruction, both tells the entire thing. In all spiritual affairs, one's first duty is to control the mind and senses. When the mind and senses are controlled, everything pertaining to spiritual knowledge will be revealed to the practitioner. And every Vaishnava's, one devotee's duty is to fix his attitude and eventually become Goswami. This is a sum and substance there. So Prabhupada says, you know, to regulate our mind and senses. When knowledge is revealed, when the knowledge is revealed, we should have right attitude to apply and receive the knowledge to eventually become a Goswami. So hence, principle happens to be the direction in which we are supposed to function. So all these slokas that we just read today, if you put it in one nutshell, saying that these are the types of people that Kali Yuga is produced, and these are the people that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is going to preach and eventually win themselves. So that's the first reflection into this current context. The second reflection in this context is about how the Brahmanas, because one of the important aspect is those who are supposed to be doing it. Shloka number 67. Even the so-called scholars, the Batacharyas, Chakravartis and Mishras, did not know the real purport of the scriptures. There is a very interesting story. I think I've said that before. A person has a Brahmana. He had a desire to pet a parrot. So this Brahmana had a fear that if I have a parrot to, maintain, sometimes hunters come and take them away. And he didn't want the parrot to be always caged. So he decided that I will, because I'm a Brahmana, because I'm of an intelligent class, I will definitely see to that. I will give them some education, train them, so that even when hunters come, I will not lose them. So he devised a mantra, because he's a Brahmana, and parrots are known to learn them and repeat them. So what was the mantra? Shikari aayega, dana dalega, chal bichayega, fasna nahi. Which means hunter will come, he will throw some grains, he will spread his net, you should not get caught. So this is the mantra which the Brahmana kept on teaching the parrot every day. And the parrot kept on chanting this. Every day this used to be a regular scrum. And almost it went for 1 year. The parrot was absolutely, thorough with this mantra. Wherever the parrot used to travel, sit around the house, it used to always murmur or regularly, say the Sikari aayega, dana dalega, chal bichayega, fasna nahi. Kept on saying. So this Brahmana got so confident that now the parrot is completely well-versed with this shloka, this mantra. I guess I should let this parrot free, not to cage her anymore. So I guess she knows to protect herself. So he left her open and went for his own business, whatever he was doing. So the hunter came, and the hunter naturally didn't know any of this story in the background. The hunter came, he threw some grains, he spread the net. And to everyone's surprise, what did the parrot do? The parrot kept on chanting this mantra, Shikari aayega, dana dalega, jal bichayega, fasna nahi. and actually did the same thing. She went and went and got caught in the net. And even whilst being within the net, Shikari aayega means the hunter came. Dana dalega means he will throw the grain. Jal bichayega means he will spread the net. Fasna nahi means I should not get caught. That's all the mantra is. The hunter will come, he will throw the grain, he will spread the net. I should not get caught. The hunter will come, he will throw some grain, spread the nets. I should not get caught. The mantra was in Hindi language, so I thought Mataji was saying I should clarify. So kept on chanting this, and whilst it got caught inside that, it kept on chanting. I hail from a South Indian, Brahmin family. We are used to be like these parrots. I used to be like that. Let me not blame anyone else. We have learned several mantras until I came in touch with devotees. I didn't even know that I should learn the meaning of the mantras. Prabhupada taught. So we used to have several mantra prayers, and one of the famous prayers even in North India they chant is Kayena Vacha Manasrendriyava Buddhyatmanavat Prakrite Swabhava Karomi Yatyat Sakalam Parasmai Narayana iti Samarpayami. If somebody has chanted this mantra knowing this meaning, so they would have progressed much well. Before coming to Krishna consciousness, I had chanted this mantra at least almost every day 3 times when we do our Sandhya Vandan. So when we chant this, we just keep on murmuring, chanting as if we are just finishing some duties. The point I'm trying to drive home is Brahmanas, Chakravartis, Batacharyas, Mishras, they did not know the real purport of the scriptures. Narayana iti samarpayami. Kayena vacha, the words. Manasa, indriyaiva, the thoughts of the mind and your intelligence. Buddhyatmanava. All of them I am offering as an oblations to Sriman Narayana, to the Supreme Lord. That is the meaning of this mantra. That is the meaning of these things. But if a Brahmana did not know the purport, the Brahmana did not understand the meaning, we are just like a parrots. And if he follows such a Brahmana, then we are definitely at risk. So second reflection is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu realized this. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu observed this. And to a larger extent, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu played a role of a notorious Sanskrit scholar, did not give any importance to spiritual, religious Siddhanta. He was only a dry philosopher. As a baby Nimai, as a Nimai Pandit for some time. He did play that role and wanted to demonstrate what it means to be transforming, what it means to be giving up that dry scholarliness. And eventually, he demonstrated what it means to be practicing devotional service. So the reflection here is, in our journey to Krishna consciousness, we need to be aware of such a Brahmana who does not understand the purport, who doesn't understand the reason behind whatever that we are doing. And we should also learn to acknowledge how Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, in his manifested Leela, he counteracted, he fixed these kind of, bogus Brahmanas or those Brahmanas who didn't really understand the purport. We had discussed during our Chaitanya Charitamrita session when Mahaprabhu transformed the entire cloud of Mayavadi followers, the entire cloud of Prakashananda Saraswati and their followers. Everybody finally got completely convinced that the Sankirtan mission is the way forward. Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam as the process. And Mahaprabhu did that in a very nice and a very scientific manner, so that people have not, felt that they were forced, and they naturally accepted them. So my reflection here is that in our journey to Krishna consciousness, whilst in Krishna consciousness, we should not repeat the same mistakes as this Martha Brahmanas, as this so-called Brahmanas who did things without understanding the purport. So Prabhupada time and again encouraged us to understand the purport, to know the meaning of what we are doing, and if you don't know, ask relevant questions and try to get clarified so that we are not just blind followers. We are not just some honest fools. We are somebody who is independently thoughtful and responsible and accountable devotee in the mission of Mahaprabhu. So hence this Prabhupada's request for us to become Goswamis, Prabhupada's request for us to fix our attitude is to understand that we are not just a religious practitioners. We are not doing this for the sake of external show bottle devotion. We really mean business, which means I will chant, I will make others chant. This is my second reflection. So, a third reflection is sometimes in the practice of Krishna consciousness, as in the next shloka, even after teaching the scriptures, the teachers still engaged in such activities. As a result, both the teachers and the students were punished by Yamaraj. What is that activity? They never explained the real purpose and meaning. It is said in the Vedic Paddhati, whenever you do any Vedic rituals, if you very consciously attend to all the mantras, every mantra is explaining the consequences also. So these are all just Sanskrit mantras. For those who don't know Sanskrit, those who do not want to relate to that, they consider them as a formality. You just chant to get to do certain process. But actually these all mantras are nothing but some set of communications and set of informations and set of warnings and set of awards and rewards. So if you really do not know it, and if you keep doing it and keep educating to people and they subsequently educate others, then we are creating a chain reaction of Kali Chelas. In the sense that as a part of the mantra, they teach about certain principles about how to conduct yourself. As I know, little bit few mantras here and there. When we chant any havan or any ceremonies, at the end, we are taught how to ask for forgiveness. Yadakshara pada prishtam matrahinam yad bhavet tat sarvam kshamyatam deva narayana namostute. If somebody does not know what is the meaning of this mantra, then they will be doing it. They will teach to their students. And they will also subsequently chant. This mantra is supposed to be chanted in the utmost sense of sincerity, repentance, remorse. Because in the process I must have made several mistakes. So, Kshamyatam Deva Narayana Namostute. Please forgive me, my dear Lord. Please forgive me, my dear Gurudev. Please forgive my dear Vaishnavas. That's the mood. And that mood, when you ask this, forgiveness, then your consciousness is fixed. The process is complete. And you also impart this knowledge subsequently. So, Vrindavan Das Thakura is already telling how before Mahaprabhu really presented the Sankirtan mission, how the knowledge, Brahmanas who imparted knowledge to their students and how the cycle went on. Somehow this became a formality. Somehow this became like a kind of a scenario. So hence the third reflection is about Falena Parichiyate. Because Prabhupada says that any process for us to relish, enjoy the taste of Krishna consciousness. So the result of Krishna consciousness we can experience by its taste. So Srila Prabhupada uses the word Falena Parichiyate. Experience it and taste it. Krishna also says this. Susukam kartum avyayam pratyaksha vagamam dharmyam. Susukam. Now we present this to some new students, saying that, my dear friends, please come, experience this. This experience is very tasty, very pleasing, very wonderful. We have tasted this or we are tasting this, we are at least trying to taste it. You guys come and take it up. If somebody is really notorious, they will say, you also come up and taste ours. we are, we calling out for somebody to taste it has to have a basis. So my reflection here is, this, when Prabhupada said Phalena Parichiyate, it has got two explanations or two details. Number one, for sure you practice it, you can experience it. But today you can't experience it. So hence take the experience of the experienced person as the basis and keep doing it. It is explained by an example of Srimad Bhagavatam. Very nicely Prabhupada explains in the Samudra Manthan pastime in one of the purports. He says, today I am diseased, and for me every taste is bitter. I'm not adding any taste, especially if I have COVID, I lose my taste. How will I be able to judge which is correct, which is not correct? And how this Phalena Parichiyate will work? How will I give experience to my students? So what is explained, just trust your well-wishers, trust your parents, trust your doctors. They are saying, take this medicine will eventually purify. The place that I'm coming here is teachers and students and the cycle. If they do not try to carry this message of Phalena Parichiyate from the right source, which means Krishna gave this knowledge to Arjuna, Arjuna gave this knowledge to, the whole parampara, Brahma, Narada, Vyasa, whatever the parampara is. We are first receiving because it is from the right source. We know it is not pleasant or palatable at this point in time because we are diseased, but because we have trust on them, because we have faith on them, because we have surrendered to the seniors, we will accept them and follow them, and eventually we will gain that experience that is declared. On the contrary, the current set of students want to first experience, and if they like it, they will accept it. So my reflection, third point that I want to say here is this Phalena Parichiyate, which is constantly, repeatedly told by Srila Prabhupada, wherein our experiential learning, this Krishna consciousness is an experienceable learning. We need to accept them with some little bit of carefulness. If you do not experience it today, we don't give up, because the younger generation, they give up. Mummy, I bore lagta hai. I feel bored. I don't feel excited. I don't feel enjoying. But up till the age of 10, 12, to a larger extent, kids listen. The moment they cross 13, 14, 15 and little further, they have their own reasons. They have their own judgment, and they have their own process to accept things. His Holiness Bhakti Vidya Purna Maharaj mentions that sometimes as parents, they'll be very happy when their children are nicely acquiring devotional skills, singing, chanting mantras, telling pastimes. So he says it's very nice training. But the parent should be really guarding and helping the children and still make them remain in Krishna consciousness even after the child has crossed the age of 15. Up till 15, if somebody is Krishna conscious, it is nice. But the success of a parent is really, achieved when after 15 or when they are in their teenagers, when they have reached their early 20s, they are still able to appreciate and practice and remain as a Krishna conscious devotee. So that's the, real test, or that's the real phase that we all have to put ourselves through. So my reflection here is about in the journey of Krishna consciousness. When Mahaprabhu, came up and established the Sankirtan mission, he actually did this too. He made sure that he gave us different doctors and different self-realized devotees who could give us experienceable knowledge and process, which will cure us and eventually help us taste it. The holy name and the process which Mahaprabhu gave, the Sankirtan mission, is in by itself a medicine as well as the food. That is why Prabhupada says this is the means as well as this is the end. So the third reflection is about how Phalena Parichiyate is something that we need to subscribe to. Further down, text number 70. All the so-called renunciates and ascetics never chanted the names of Hari. Srila Prabhupada, in one of the lectures, very strongly condemns the so-called spiritual authorities, the so-called bogus practitioners. He says that they talk Bhagavad Gita, they teach Bhagavad Gita, but they never ever use the word Krishna. How can somebody give a Bhagavad Gita session, especially the so-called corporate gurus, for them to conveniently present their ideologies, bogus ideologies? They use Bhagavad Gita as a source of their content, but they don't accept Krishna. They don't believe in Krishna. They don't consider that Krishna exists. So they don't even use the word Krishna. And here Prabhupada says, or Vrindavan Das Thakura says, all the so-called renunciates and ascetics never chanted the names of Hari. How can you be a sannyasi? How can you be a renunciant? In the purport, the Prabhuji is writing, the word tapasvi refers to a living entity who tries to gain strength to deliver himself from the danger of being afflicted by the threefold miseries. So a tapasvi, a person who is virakta tapasvi abhimani. The word tapasvi means one who is completely preparing himself to relieve from the cycle of threefold miseries, adhyatmik, atidaivik, atibaudik. And he should not relieve himself, he should relieve his dependents, he should relieve his students. Because sannyas ashrama, or the ashrama, is considered as a important or the topmost of all the four ashramas, and has got its responsibilities, has got this, or got their accountability. So our fourth reflection hence here is about how in the progressive path of Krishna consciousness, independent of the dress and address, one should learn to know what is the center of their life, which I call it as selfie syndrome. Selfie syndrome is I am self-centered, thinking about my benefits, thinking about my pleasure, thinking about mine, and in the process, forget about the purpose of my existence, purpose of what I am doing, why I am doing, where I am doing, for whom I am doing. So the selfie syndrome is of late, we are self-conscious about ourselves, how we look, what does our profile look like, what others are going to think about us. That is why the civilization now is interested in creating moments, interested in capturing those moments. But the previous generation or the Vedic generation, they were not interested in, they were interested in creating lives, lifestyle, and how they need to conduct themselves, what philosophy, what principles underlying my life. They were focusing on that. So the reflection here is that in the journey of Krishna consciousness, it is imperative, it is important for us to understand that more than the ashrama, more than the dress, more than the address, it is imperative that for us to practice Krishna-centric life. Vasudeva Paragatihi. Srimad Bhagavad Gita, 9th chapter, shloka number 18. In that, Krishna explains, Gatihi, I am the goal. So, Krishna is the goal for us, and for that, we are practicing Krishna consciousness process. Chanting is the goal, and chanting is the means. And if so-called renunciants, ascetics, those who are supposed to be teaching God-centered life, those who are supposed to be teaching a spiritualistic way of life, if they are not, if they have never chanted the names of Hari, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu fixed that also. What to speak of ascetics and renunciates and ascetics, he had even made animals to chant. He had made animals in the Jharkhand forest to chant. whomever Mahaprabhu touched, he made them chant. He made them take up Krishna consciousness journey just by the touch of him. So Mahaprabhu knew that if I don't do that, he made Jagai and Madai transform. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami explained, they got transformed so much so that Jagai and Madai became pujaniya, worshipable, respectable. Even though they were born in a Brahmana family, they did such a heinous act. The Chitragupta had to maintain, a huge book of accounts. But after they got the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, they became worshipable, pujaniya. So my fourth reflection is that the society is currently somewhere or other, self-centered with a selfie syndrome. Selfie syndrome is I'm not sure if you have seen people constantly changing their DP pictures with their own different, avatars. They would update their Facebook, they update all their social media handle with their new avatars. How I look in the morning, afternoon, evening, night, early morning, before taking bath, after taking bath, all the avatars they put. I don't know why I want to see so many of your avatars. But they are so conscious, obsessed. Not targeting anyone individually, but that very clearly tells a syndrome, which means I'm self-obsessed. When I'm constantly, training myself, the next generation are going to prepare in the same line, and which will eventually miss the point, which is to be Krishna-centric. Vasudeva paragatihi, Vasudeva paraveda, Vasudeva paramakaha, Vasudeva parayuga, Vasudeva parakriyaha, Vasudeva param jnanam, Vasudeva param tapaha, Vasudeva paro dharmo, Vasudeva paragatihi. So this is from first canto, chapter 2, text number 25-26. Fantastic verse to memorize, which will clearly tell what is the purpose of our life. Somebody becoming an ascetic and renunciant does not chant the name of Hari. So what is the value of them renouncing? What are they renouncing? So hence the fourth reflection is about the aspect of how one should not become a person inflicted with selfie syndrome, self-centered. Rather, we should eventually become a Krishna-centric, God-centric, and eventually try to take up spirituality. And the last reflection, the fifth one, is about the last shloka of today's session. Even when someone explained the Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, they would not mention anything about devotional service to the Lord. It is an extension of what we just spoke, but then this is very explicitly said by Vrindavan Das Thakur. How come you teach Bhagavad Gita and Srimad Bhagavatam and does not talk about devotional service? In our Bhakti Shastri session, we always speak how this Bhagavad Gita is very well structured, and so where Krishna is giving initially first six chapters introduction to the yoga system, and in the last 6 chapters he's trying to kind of give a summary study, but the middle 6 chapters 7 to 12 are the core education meant for us to completely focus as a practitioner, so that message of middle 6 chapters gives us direct instruction of the Supreme Lord how one have to take up the process of devotional service, especially the 12th chapter, in which Krishna insists on the aspect of devotional service. So Vrindavan Das Thakur says, even when someone explained Bhagavad Gita or Srimad Bhagavatam, how come somebody does not talk about devotional service? I know many scholars where people tell Karma Yoga is superior to Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga is superior to Bhakti Yoga. They use every other logic to demean Bhakti Yoga. In fact, that is an argument that Mahaprabhu was put with when he was in Banaras. He said, you are a sannyasi, you are not studying Vedanta, you are not studying Vedic scripture, you are roaming around like a madman. So Mahaprabhu had to respond saying that my Guru Maharaj said that I am not very intelligent, so I am supposed to be chanting this mantra. Until that point in time, I became mad after this mantra, or I really get excitement by chanting this mantra. So Mahaprabhu had to really cut through their heart and see how, from becoming a dry philosopher without knowing how Krishna is the purpose, ete changsa kala pumsam Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. The purpose of reading Srimad Bhagavatam is to establish how Krishna is the supreme personality of Godhead, how Krishna is the focus, how Krishna is the agenda for us. Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Narada Muni chastised Vyasadeva for that. You wrote all the Vedic literatures, but you are not happy. You compiled so many things. You have not glorified the devotional service. You have not glorified the Supreme Lord. So the essence is, you do everything, but not glorify, not put Krishna in the center, Krishna factor. Then it is Sramayevahi Kevalam. Dharmasya Anustita Pumsa Visvakshena Katasvayaha Patatpada Yadiratim Sramayevahi Kevalam. So Srimad Bhagavatam explains that Visvakshena Katasvayaha, one should learn to glorify, one should learn to worship, one should learn to keep Krishna in the center of our life and engaging oneself in the devotional service of the Lord. Krishikena, Krishikesa Sevanam. That is why instead of regular karma, we do Krishna karma. Instead of sense gratification, you gratify the senses of Krishna. Krishikesa Sevanam. Krishikena, Krishikesa Sevanam. So my fifth reflection hence is about, in the process of Krishna consciousness, let us not do anything that is going to lead us to be in the stage of Shramayevahi Kevalam. The Shramayevahi Kevalam is simply waste of time. I'll end with a small story and we'll summarize and then we'll take up question answers. One man was walking by the road and he saw a peculiar scene on the side of the road. He saw two guys. One was digging a hole on the side of the road and another one was, closing it. Second, he dug another hole and that other guy was closing it. And the third guy was digging a, small hole on the side of the road and the other guy was closing it. So this passerby asked, what you guys are doing seems very funny to me. It's on a midday under the hot sun. Why you guys are digging this hole with such a hard labor? One of you digging it, other person is closing it. One of you digging it, other person is closing it. So what is the value of this exercise? So the guys said, both of them, sir, actually we are 3 people appointed by the government meant to do a job of sowing a seed or sapling on the side of the road. So one person's job is to dig a hole. The second person's job is to sow the seed or put some small sapling. And third person's job is to close. But the second person is on leave today. If he is on leave today, why should we not do our job? Why should we lose our wages? So we are doing our work. So what is the value of that work? Shramayevahi Kevalam, simply waste of time. So hence this message of reading Bhagavad Gita, reading Srimad Bhagavatam, and not to mention anything about devotional service is about what Vyasadeva experienced after compiling all the Vedas, did not glorify Krishna explicitly. The chastisement or the direction that he received from Narada Muni transformed. Similarly, we might be doing several things in our life, but if Krishna is not the benefactor, Krishna is not the goal, if Krishna is not the person to whom we are supposed to offer them, then what is the value of doing all of them? Krishna Surya Saman Maya Hara Antahar. Krishna is like one. Every other activities are like zero. If we do not have a one in the beginning, then we are a big zero. So the fifth reflection is, let's not do anything that is like Shramayevahi Kevalam. So these are the 5 reflections from this 9 shlokas that we discussed today. To summarize our conversation, the first reflection is about how there are 4 stages or 4 levels of performance of action. Even before that, we mentioned that how when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was to appear, when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu appeared, much before that, Advaitacharya anticipated some really big damage is coming our way. Hence, the Lord needs to come and help and deliver these fallen souls. So because of Advaitacharyas really seeing what is coming ahead, because of his prayers, because of his request, the Lord appeared. But when the Lord appeared, the scene, whilst on the day of his appearance, several other auspicious things happened, but the civilization, the society at that time was into a complete mess. And some of the glimpses of that is what is explained by Vrindavan Das Thakura. So from the start of how a person start to perform an action, we mentioned how when somebody does it based on his sensual, based on his past experience, based on borrowed intelligence, but seldom people are principled. But Srila Prabhupada wanted us to be highly principled. So we referred about the directives that Srila Prabhupada gave in the preface to Nectar of Instruction. So we discussed as a second reflection about the so-called Brahmanas, Batacharyas, how they misuse their position, and they are somehow not giving or not teaching. They don't understand themselves the purport of the Vedic literature and how it is important for us to know the Vedic literature and their purport. Otherwise, just knowing them will only make our heart hard. Only when we apply, only when we take the blessings, only when we really put them to use towards the glorification of the Lord, the real meaning of Vedic literature is, going to be experienced. And we also spoke about the relationship between teachers and students, how the teachers sometimes do not teach the application in the right capacity. And we see that, we experience them nowadays, how in our day-to-day life, the society has completely moved towards only experiential learning. They do not want to believe, Phalena Parichiyate point that we explained, how we are only based on what I experience is what the reality is. I will not go by what I am taught by my superiors. And the fourth reflection that we spoke is about the selfie syndrome, where people are completely self-centered, take the position of a renunciant, ascetic, or whatever that is for their own personal agenda, and not be righteous, and not even chant the name of Hari, which is the purpose of renunciation. So such a renunciation, that's such a false vairagya, such a false renunciation is not going to take anywhere. And finally, we spoke about the last shloka of today's discussion, wherein we should not do something which is sramayevahi kevalam, which is a completely a waste of time. We should rather focus our energy, focus our intelligence, directing towards Krishnastu Bhagavan Sayam, understanding Krishna as the goal, understanding Krishna as our focus, Krishna as the center of our life. So I would stop here, and if there are any questions or comments, I'll be happy to respond. Shri Shri Caitanya Bhagavata Ki Jai, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai, Thai Gaura Premanande Hari Hari Bol. Any questions or comments?
Thank you so much, Prabhuji. Very, very enlightening class and very instructive as well. So many lessons to learn from, and very grateful for your association, Prabhuji. So if there is any question or comments or any realization, please go ahead and share with Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu, Dandavat Pranams, or glories to Srila Prabhupada. Wonderful session, Prabhu. I was thinking that, the verses were so technical, but the way you explained was so beautiful. Especially you mentioned about the 4 kinds of people, that how they interact, with the world, how they carry on their activities. And it's so important that we should focus on the principles, as our Lord Krishna is also regarded as the master of principles. And though he broke a lot of rules, but his principles were never broken. And thank you for that nice story. I was reflecting on, rather introspecting on my own self, that, even Hare Krishna Mahamantra has such a deep meaning. It should be offered with prayers. but we just say like parrot, without even realizing what we are asking for from the divine couple. And yes, selfie syndrome, self-centered. Beautiful point, Prabhu. I really love all those reflections that you shared. Thank you so much for your association. As Mataji said, it was instructive class, but it was quite introspective also. We can, especially for me, I was introspecting that, where I fall in all these categories and how I can improve. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much for your wonderful session and your association. Hare Krishna.
Hare
And I
Krishna.
really like the way you churn the verses, those verses, like sometimes when it comes to me to give class, I just get bewildered. Okay, these are so dry verses. What should I speak? But the way you churn out that shows, your experience and your realizations. Wonderful, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Hare
I'm
Krishna.
already sweating. I'm not sure if you noticed that or not. So whenever I have to come for Bhakti Sangha conference, I have a challenge because you're all such a learned people. These verses are, I don't know how to even explain this verse. I was praying to Krishna, give me some intelligence so that I can present, something. I should be not sounding stupid. At the same time, I should not be doing some basic type that you all would anyway know. So I was just thinking. So I put myself as a student and I spoke. So maybe it worked.
We all are on the basic level, but yes, Krishna reciprocated to your praise. And you're sweating, and now I know you're not sweating because of the class, maybe because of the atmosphere. The environment you are
in my room, I don't have air conditioning, so the fan makes a lot of noise too. So that's another
that's
reason. But the main reason is that amongst such a august assembly, you naturally feel tensed up. So, Bhakti Sangha conference class means 3 days before I have to start thinking about it. So anyway, thank you so much for your kind words, Mataji.
Not for you, but thank you, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. Thank you so much. Wonderful. Yes. Thank you so much. And I just second whatever both of them said, both Kirtida Sundari and Anuradha Mataji said. 100% true. Very, very beautiful, very introspective session. And it's such a pleasure to hear you every time. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for this wonderful session again. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Very, very beautiful class, Prabhuji, as Mataji said. So nice. I really like the stories that you have said about the bird story and also the other Shrema Eva Kevalam. The other person did not come, but still the main person who needs to soak the seeds, he didn't come, but they are thinking, okay, let me do my own job. If he's not coming, what's there? But they are forgetting that is completely waste of the time. If the other person is not there, the purpose of that is no more, right? But they're still doing it. That really explains that how, when we are practicing devotional service, our main purpose is to please Krishna, understand, the love of Godhead. And then that is the purpose of our life. If we are not able to understand, if we are reading, there is no use. So beautifully explained, Prabhuji. And I really like that how you just don't need to take borrow of the ideas just blindly, like you were telling, but Prabhuji, you also said that when we are following a person who is coming from parampara, it's okay, because we always in our ISKCON we say that we see the devotees, we learn from them and we present it. So how do we understand this, Prabhuji, when you talk about that?
Krishna warned Arjuna not to just do what he asked him to do. When Krishna told Arjuna, please, if you have questions, you ask. If you didn't understand anything, I will clarify. If you still want to do what you want to do, please do it. Your choice is yours. Srila Prabhupada never wanted us to be honest fools, just nodding our head. Yes, Prabhuji said, Mataji said, Maharaj said this, that. Prabhupada wanted us to be independently thoughtful. Okay, don't use the word independent. What happens is that if people just catch the word independent, they think it is really risky. Thoughtful meaning, please apply the messages to your context. We were discussing about Vaishnava relationship series in our group. So we were discussing many times when we talk about the word relationships, we immediately start to think about others. Relationship means I need. What is supposed to be done by me? Suppose, for example, somebody gives you an arrangement, hypothetical situation. Somebody gives you an arrangement where you stand in front of Krishna and you are going to make a prayer to Krishna. And we have a way and means by which we can overhear or hear your prayers. Sometimes we ourselves will feel ashamed because we know what we are asking is not absolutely correct. What we are trying to do in our activities are not correct because there is some sort of a selfishness going within ourselves. So what the message here is that in the process of Krishna consciousness, can we apply? Can we be thoughtful before we apply? Is it relevant to me? Is it applicable to me? How much I can follow this? How much I can practice this? How, sequence we can do this? Not just blindly, following. Because instructions may vary from person to person. The gravity may vary from person to person. The message that I want to say here is, don't try to just blindly do things just because, even if it is coming from the right source. But the advantage there is, if you blindly do it for some time, you will get result. But after a point in time, you definitely need to ask some questions and try to, understand, assimilate, and, try to learn for your own growth. Otherwise, at some point in time, even after being a member or a blessed student of Srila Prabhupada and his followers, we will still be scratching the surface of the Siddhanta. So Srila Prabhupada never wanted us to be like that. So we have wonderful science. Learn to apply, assimilate it according to your understanding. And from there you will get experience. From that experience, you will gain further understanding. And that's a way to, way to move forward. So borrowed intelligence from a right source is okay for some time. Borrowed intelligence to be applied, assimilated, and eventually, preached. That is very important. So that is why Yadunandan Maharaj wrote a book. In that book, I've read a very nice point. Srila Prabhupada says, I wanted all my students to write their reflections and eventually publish them. Why Srila Prabhupada said that? I mean, of course, Prabhupada books are the basis, but our reflections will inspire several people. If Prabhupada books are the basis, then let's read only Prabhupada books. Why are we having classes? The reason we are having classes is, with this basis, we are sharing our reflections. When I state something, I am becoming conscious, responsible, I am aware, and I'm also able to inspire others. And we are able to cross-inspire each other. And that way we are trying to, create a wonderful cloud, wonderful, group of devotees, like-minded devotees. So it is extremely important that we need to apply Krishna consciousness understanding to our context, according to our understanding, and we make progress from there. Not that we have to borrow. That Mataji is doing 64 rounds and Nirjala on every Ekadasi, I will also do it. You will faint if you are not prepared for it. So don't overdo things and do undercut. So exaggeration is also a problem, and not properly glorifying is also a problem. So let us be as realistic devotees as possible. Krishna likes realistic people. Krishna does not like diplomats. Krishna does not like pessimists. Krishna likes realistic people. So let us be a realistic devotee, present as we are, because Krishna will anyway know what we are thinking. So just going and telling him, Krishna, I love you, if you don't love him, we actually want to use him. So better be realistic to him. Does that make sense, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, Prabhuji.
Krishna.
It's very clear. Thank you. Your answers are always very nice, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Any other thoughts, comments, reflections?
हरे कृष्णा प्रभु जी, कोटि कोटि दंडवत प्रणाम. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Shri Radha Gopinath ki jai. Prabhu ji, I remember that days that before 4 year or 3.5 year, I hardly understand one or two realization you are explaining. Your class is going very hard for me, but I always pray to Jai Pataka Maharaj and HG Radhanath Maharaj. I want to say that there is a Kirtida Mataji, HG Kirtida Mataji. So when I joined before 15 years, that time not understand Radhanath Maharaj Vani. So the 1 year, Mataji said that 1 year you have to hear in Hindi and 1 year you have to hear Gurudev Vani. So Prabhuji, koti koti danvat pranam to your sincere seva. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Shri Radha Gopinath ki jai. Thank you, Prabhuji. And with the all senior Vaishnavas, senior council, senior Bhakti Sangha teachers request, can you please sing one Shishi, the Chaitanya Mahaprabhuji's birthday is coming, so sing whatever he wants to sing, and can you please send your album so that all Bhakti Sangha Mataji can learn Vaishnav song from you. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, koti koti dandavat pranam.
Hare Krishna. So you are one person who makes me repeatedly feel indebted and guilty also. I will definitely send the album. I'll make sure that it's done, it's compiled. I mean, it's there, but it has to be properly presented. I'll arrange it. And if there are no questions, then I'll sing a song glorifying Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu, and we'll end the session.
Prabhuji, I had a question, but I don't know if anybody else.
Sure.
When you said like about parroting, right, the mantras, any mantra, like even saying the Shama Yachana, what we do after the services that we do at the altar, especially at the temple. So Prabhuji, like I'll tell on from a very practical and personal thing that I have a cooking service once a week, and it's very exhausting from picking the vegetable till washing the pots. It's 5 hours continuously standing service. And after that, when I am saying my Shama Yachana, I just want to come back home. And I just want to sit down. And after sitting down, that time I may feel some aura when I see the deity of Krishna. Our deities are Shri Radha Kalachandji. When I see them, I simply tell him, sorry, I know I have done many mistakes. I don't know what I was thinking. Mostly I'll be listening to this class because this is the time I cook lunch. So but then, so that my consciousness remain right. But that time when I'm reading, because the pujari needs to run and I need to come back home and take care of other things, that kind of, I feel so sorry that while chanting, I'm asking for service and I'm getting such a wonderful service. I do it with so much of attention, of course, because I have a timeline. I have to, before 11:15, I have to complete like 10 items. So I'm like a machine. But that emotion, that bhav that we hear from the scripture, that Mother Yashoda, Radharani, I mean, they're all exalted personalities. I'm just saying. But that emotion is not there because I'm more like a machine than a person. And then, when it is over, I'm happy to do the service. But when it is over, I'm even more happier that, one more day I could do it, because I don't know if I will be able to continue the service. That time when I'm saying sorry, I do not have that much of, even if we read the Sanskrit verse and then the English, so that I do not miss out on the meaning. But still that kind of emotion is not there. Is it because I'm too new to the process, or it will come eventually?
I'll tell you two points with respect to your questions. Number one is Shama Yachana that we ask at the end. But even though we ask at the end, the process actually should begin from the beginning. So the example I can give you is, suppose, for example, you are a surgeon going to perform a surgery, especially if you are doing a heart surgery or a neurosurgery, something very complicated surgery. So our doing devotional service is something like that. Because when we do surgery, there is no process called Shama Yachana later. I did all the surgery, Kshama kijiye, so if something goes wrong, please excuse me. People will, arrest you. So when I'm performing as a surgeon, when I'm performing the process, I'm so careful, so conscious, so particular that whilst the surgery is being done, all my quotients are triggered whilst I'm doing, so that the result is successful. So generally the process is, when we begin, the reason why we take permission from Guru, and the end we say Kshama Yachana. I'll come to the Kshama Yachana part, but the process itself is done in the spirit of accountable, responsible, conscious. All these three things are there. I'm accountable for what I'm doing, I'm responsible for what I'm doing, and I'm conscious of what I'm doing. So whilst I'm doing, there is also an inbuilt sense of awe and reverence and sense of fear, mixed respect in the process. So even though you may not remember Krishna's Shyam Sundara's face, just by the virtue of you cooking for him in that with awe and reverence and consciousness, so many things are addressed. Now coming to the process of Kshama Yachana. Kshama Yachana is generally meant for unknowing, unthoughtful, what that you have not anticipated. You didn't even know you would have done that. That is meant for that. What generally people think is that, or by people like me sometimes, Kshama Yachana to hai na. At the end, we have the process of asking forgiveness. So let's keep on finishing the service. We will ask for forgiveness at the end. That is not the process. The process is throughout the service. I am conscious not to make mistakes. I am aware. I am accountable. I am, responsible. So that the Kshama Yachana is actually not explicitly required. But because we are conditioned souls, we may have inadvertently, without realizing, unknowingly done some mistakes. For that, we should not get implicated. So we should ask for it. So Kshama Yachana from that perspective is done from that perspective that I did not anticipate or I couldn't control, stop doing that mistake at that time. So please forgive me. Now coming to the emotions part of it. The emotions part of it will build only when there is a relationship part of it. When the relationship, suppose for example, if that person to whom you are doing that service is a living person, or a person, your spiritual master, or a person who is your son-in-law, that person is your grandchild, that person is somebody who is most beloved to you, then there is always an emotions explicitly visible in our action. They say emotions come in when the relationship is maturing. If today I consider Krishna as an idol, Krishna as a putla, then my emotions are just because it's just a doll. When I see Krishna as Shyama Sundar, Kalachandji, Rasa Bihari, then naturally I start to relate with him as a person. And actually, thanks to Srila Prabhupada who taught this sense of, teaching us that Krishna is a person. Otherwise, we used to call it. In English language, it is. But Srila Prabhupada is the one who saw he is. And he referred to us as a living. So probably this goes hand in hand. Today, we are emotionless or little less emotions or little insensitive because of our relationship is yet not fully blossomed. We are still in the process of making. As of now, I am 30% loving Krishna, 70% using Krishna. So when I go towards the other extreme, 70% loving Krishna, 30% using Krishna, then slowly further reduce of using Krishna and only loving Krishna, then your emotions will be very much matured. So it's a process by itself. So we need not kind of curse us or put us down, but as much as possible work on the relationship side. So action side will naturally get fine-tuned. So the area to fix is not where you have to chant the mantra. That is the last part. It will take 2 minutes to fix that. If the relationship is taken care. If the operation is being done for your daughter, if the operation is being done for your beloved, if the operation is being done for your very closest person, you will be emotion full all through. You may even not want to do you may not want to do operation yourself. You may want to do somebody better than you to do an operation. So that will be kind of emotions. Sanatana Goswami was choosing not to enter Jagannath temple. Raghunath Das Goswami did not choose to go inside the temple. Sanatana Goswami did not even walk in the same streets as the Pandas used to walk. I mean, if somebody loves Jagannath, what we will think, just barge in. But they love so much Jagannath, they love so much Jagannath servants, so they refrained themselves, oh my God, I am not the right candidate, so let me appreciate the Lord, be the recipient of Lord's mercy from another zone. So these emotions are very complicated to understand only. For us, we bindas use Krishna, but the science of Krishna consciousness is Krishna actually uses us. And for that, Krishna is expecting you to reciprocate, build relationship with them. And naturally, your emotions all will be taken care. In fact, Krishna will chase you down. Mataji, aap cooking kabhi, I am waiting for you. So that's a kind of mode that Krishna will chase after. And probably those days where he'll exhibit. In Mayapur Dham, Jananivas Prabhu narrated several pastimes where Radha Madhava, they express us what they like, what they don't like through some symptoms. There are many stories. Maybe sometimes we can talk about it. But did I make sense to you, Mataji?
Absolutely, Prabhu. But I also need your blessings and prayers so that they may come when the 70 and 30% equation changes. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
And dear devotees, if anybody having any more question, otherwise Prabhuji will be singing for us.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. I have one more question. Can I ask?
Sure.
So, Prabhuji, we are telling about learning the verses, right? So, for the small kids, usually they say it is very good to memorize the verses. So, I am teaching my daughter verses, and she recites every day Bhagavad Gita. But she just turned 7. Little bit now she's understanding here and there, meaning not completely. So, how should be how do I take further, and is it okay to teach the verses right now like that? Just she's reciting everyday chapters like that.
See, in Gurukula system, generally the way the Gurukula system used to work is about, there is one period which is only for memorizing the shlokas. So there is nothing wrong in that. I learned the entire Vishnu Sahasranama. My teacher taught, and first instruction he gave, I was at that time in my grade 4th or 5th or 3rd or whatever that is. So he taught us, never once he allowed us to open the book and read. He said that you should not open the book and read, because the moment you open the book and read, then you will be, you will be not focusing on, you will be focusing on, not focusing on what I'm going to teach. You'll be focusing on your reading more than what I'm saying. So basically we were taught that when the teacher used to say one time, we used to repeat it twice. Suppose you say that Vishwam Vishnur Vashatkaro Bodha Bhavya Bhavat Prabhu, he'll say once. I have to say twice. Let's say once, you'll have to say twice. So as a process to teach by heart a shloka is not wrong. But there is always in the Gurukula system a parallel session in where meanings are discussed. So in a journey, some period you are going to focus only on Bhagavad Gita shloka teaching is not a problem. But in the journey, in the curriculum, in the process, somewhere at some appropriate age, at some appropriate period in time, you please learn to teach them the meanings. There are some schools, what they do is that maybe for the grade 4, grade 5 and above, they always teach shlokas and translations hand in hand. So that even they don't understand the meanings, they at least by heart the translations. At some point in time, they will be able to memorize them. So some different people use different techniques. So it is not a crime, or in fact, it's a blessing to teach a shloka. But if you don't teach the meaning, after some point in time, when Kali's other prabhava, other effect upon the child going to dominate, the child should not become a parrot. Chant all the verses sitting in a bar. Oh, I know Bhagavad Gita. Then that will become a very dangerous thing. So better we teach the shloka at some point in time, the meaning, what they are learning. Otherwise, they would have grown up knowing all the shlokas, all the stories, and does not know what it is all mean in their life. Makes sense, Mataji?
Yes, Prabhuji, I really like your example.
It is definitely riskier if you don't learn the meanings.
Yeah, Prabhuji. Prabhu, I'll slowly start teaching her the meaning. Yeah, but she's very small, and when they are
sure. No, you are all doing a great service. You are all doing wonderful. All your Bhakti Sangha children, they are going to be future role models for our society. So kudos to you all.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Need your blessings more so Hare that Krishna. They can be trained very well. Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji, for your answer.
Okay, any other thoughts, comments? So we'll sing a small song glorifying Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu. It's a song which Vrindavan Das Thakur has written. So it's also relevant to this current context. Ajanulambita bhujau kanakavadato sankirtanaika pitaro kamalaya taksho Visvambarau Dvijabarau Yugadharmapalau Vande Jagat Priyakaro Karunavataro Janulambhita Bahu Jughal Kanakaputali Deha Arunavandita Shobita Kalevara Upamadeya Bokaha Janulambhita Bahu Jugalam Kanakaputali Deha Arunayambara Shobita Kalevara Upamadeya Bokaha Hasavimala Bayana Kamala Pina Hridayo Saje Hasavimala Bayana Kamala Pina Hridayo Saje Unnatagima Simhajiniya Udara Bigraharaje Janulambhita Bahu Jugalam Kanakaputali Deha Arunayambara Shobita Kalevara Upamadeya Bokaha Sharananagara Ujara Sashadara Kanaya Manjari Shohe Charananagara Ujara Sashadara Kanaya Manjari Shohe Heridino Mani Apanani Chaye Rupe Jagomana Mohe Janulambhita Bahu Jugalam Kanakaputali Deha Arunayambara Shobita Kalevara Upamadeya Bokaha Kaliyugera Avatar Chaitanya Nitai Papa Pashanda Nahimane Kaliyugera Avatar Chaitanya Nitai Papa Pashanda Nahimane Sri Krishna Chaitanya Thakur Nityananda Vrindavan Das Gunagane Janulambhita Bahu Jugala Kanakaputali Deha Arunayambara Sobita Kalevara Upamadeya Bokaha Jaya Gauranitai 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 Jaya Gauranitai Nitai Gaura Haribol 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 Nitai Gaura Haribol. I'll just read the translation just for those who don't know this song. His arms extend to his knees and he appears to be like a golden doll. His form is adorned with a cloth that has the color of the rising sun. His beauty is incomparable. His magnanimous form shines brightly with a beautiful smile radiating from his lotus-like face. His large and prominent chest and broad shoulders are even more majestic than a lion's. His toenails are brighter than the full moon, and golden ankle bells adorn them. Seeing his exquisite beauty to be more brilliant than the sun, the entire world becomes enchanted. The incarnations for the age of Kali are Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. Without considering whether one is sinful or a miscreant, they distribute their mercy. Vrindavan Dasa sings glory of these two personalities His worshipable lords, Shri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Nityananda Prabhu. Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Thank you.
Thank you
Shri
so much,
Sachidanand
Prabhu.
ki jai. Thank you,
Yeah.
Prabhuji. Koti koti dandvat pranam. Hare Krishna.
Very, very beautiful nectarian, Prabhuji. Thank you so much. So if nobody has any more question or reflection, with your permission, Prabhuji, and all the Vaishnavas' permission, do we pause for the day?
Hare Krishna. Yes. Thank you.
Yes, thank you
Thank
so
you,
much.
Prabhuji. Very nice
Let us
class.
pay our obeisances to Prabhuji and all the assembled Vaishnavas. Vancha kalpatarubhyascha kripa sindhubheva cha patitanam pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo namo namo. Ananta koti Vaishnavavrinda ki jai.
Ki jai.
Shri Chaitanya Bhagavat ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. His Grace Ramgiridhari Prabhuji ki jai. Thank you, Prabhuji, for very thought-provoking class. We look forward for your association in the future. And dear devotees, we'll pause the call and see you again tomorrow. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna. Thank you, Prabhuji. Dandvat pranam. So much, Prabhuji.
Krishna, thank you everyone for joining
Krishna,
this class. We'll meet again
Hare
tomorrow.
Krishna.
Dandavat pranam. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
All
Hare